excited. Okay. Let me give it a moment for people to come back and join. I'm just going to check and see where the world is on Facebook. And it's all going. Oh my gosh, much waited. That means I just have to have you back.
I guess so.
Hello, Cindy. I see. Yeah. Hello, Cindy. I see people joining. You know what I'm going to ask you to do, Tria, is if you can share to Dr. Michelle's page, that would be awesome. So her beautiful fans can check her out and see what's going on. And we will just give it a minute. Hello, 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 everyone. It is Suzanne Hart. And I am here with the beautiful Dr. Michelle. This is one of my fave people. I just love this woman. So we are going to have a conversation about exercise, about nutrition, about those moments when you plateau or when you go all in and nothing happens and you're wondering what the heck. This is what we're going to be talking about. Now, before I give you this one's bio, I got to tell you, this is the person I send people to when I don't know what to do. When when things plateau, when we've tried everything and it doesn't work, this is the person, and she is able to work magic. So if you were joining us and this is your first time, welcome to Fit, Fab, and Fulfill Mindset Mastery. For this month, we'll be talking about health, fitness, and wellness mastery. This is about self-care, self-love, self-respect. And it is about the belief that your health, your fitness, and your wellness starts between your two ears before it ever shows up on your body. If you're joining, please put your name in the comments section. Let us know who you are, where you're calling in from. And I do apologize for us being a little late, maybe a lot late, but we were having some serious technical difficulties, but Michelle and I persevered and we are here. So please, tonight is the night I'm going to ask you to share to your page, share to a group, because people are expecting us and we're not going to show up on the usual link, but that's what happens. So please bless alive and share. I know we'll get it shared to your page, Dr. Michelle, so people can check you out.
Thanks.
And here, of course, we got you. And so we're going to jump right into this. And you know, when I met Dr. Michelle, first of all, she's super cool. She's beautiful, she's fun, but she's also really bright. So doctor in front of her name is there for a reason. She is a chiropractor. She is a nutritionist. She is a personal trainer, a competitive bodybuilder, a mom. Does the list go on? Yes, it does. And you know, as I was getting ready, Dr. Michelle, there's a few things I didn't know about you. So I'm going to just let people know. Past volleyball player. Past basketball player, rugby, really?
Yeah.
That is so you. And
that was my favorite.
Rugby, and you had a stint with football, didn't you?
I sure did.
Yeah, so women, and I think it was the lingerie league. I'll let you explain a little bit about that. So, because people are probably listening going, what?
It was very, very brief, but yes. Tackling people in my underwear was lots of fun.
Hey, that's brave. That's all I gotta say. Because men go out there with pads, and some women go out there in their underwear. I don't know. We'll talk a little about that. Dr. Michelle is also a competitive bodybuilder, and I want to say an amateur natural bodybuilder to start, and then you got your pro card and have been competing. And as I was looking through your resume, it was, you know, champion here, champion there, champion there. So you're doing it. And you are in fabulous shape and just doing a lot of stuff. So you've been on the Marilyn Dennison show as well, and you are also working with with Natasha Turner, and she's a best-selling author at the Clear Medicine Clinic, and she does stuff with hormones, does she not?
She does, yeah. And she's also featured quite prominently on Marilyn Dennis. She's also been on Dr. Oz. But yeah, she works with mostly hormone rebalancing.
Wow. So you have this wealth and range of experience. And I think this is why I so love chatting with you, the times I've had an opportunity to work with you. It's the reason I send clients to you, because I know that you take this really holistic approach. And the other thing I love is that nutrition's not a fad to you. It's a science,
Totally.
a true science. So welcome. And I wanted to take the time to just go through all that, because I think when it talks to about nutrition, really wanting to put things in context, because there's a lot out there, is there not?
In terms of nutrition, yeah, you can get lost for sure in looking up things on your own for sure on the internet.
So first of all, how are you? What have you been up to? Just to let everybody know a little bit. New mom.
Yeah, totally. That's probably that. And another thing are probably the most exciting things, new things in my life right now. My son will be 2 in December, so that's pretty cool, and he's super funny and the cutest. And I've also met somebody new, which is really exciting. So, love is always awesome.
And
So
it's
there's that and my little son.
a lots of love in the air. That's very neat.
There totally is.
So let's talk a little bit about exercise and diet and nutrition and all the pieces. And I want
Sure.
to start just looking at this concept of 80/20. And I've come to believe that although we talk a lot about exercise and workouts, it probably is 20% of the equation. Would you agree with that?
I've heard that number thrown out before. And I think it depends. I think it depends on what the result is that somebody is after.
Okay.
But definitely, I used to believe that it was 80/20,
Mhm.
but I think it's more like 50/50. But I think it got switched to 80/20 because what was happening is people weren't taking nutrition very seriously or into account, and they were also doing programs that were ineffective. So when they went and changed their nutrition and all of a sudden started getting like really, really great results, people started coming up with this 80/20. Um, but I think it's really 50/50. Nutrition is just as important as exercise. It's just a lot of the times people are missing the mark on nutrition and they're also missing the mark on their program.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I remember back in the day when it was hours in the gym, and
Yeah.
the 1, 2, 3 hours to get the results. And I really want to talk about it, this whole the possibility of overtraining, one,
Mm.
and two, just how much time do I need, first of all, to really get an impactful workout? I'll tell you what I'm doing after you answer the question.
Sure. Sure, sure. Um, well, it's funny that you bring that up because obviously back in the day, it was the same thing for me whenever I was stepping on stage. I would be spending 3 hours in the gym easily, if not 3.5 to 4 in a day leading up to it between the cardio and the weight training and some of the mobility and flexibility for sure. Um, but as my life has gone forward and I'm getting a little bit older and I've got a son now and different priorities. Fitness is still a really big deal for me. And I wanted to find a way to make that work still. But obviously, I have one son my own, but my new partner, she has two daughters. So we have 3 children between us. So things are busy.
Yeah.
So, those workouts don't really work. And what I've found is that you can get really, really efficient workouts in by increasing the intensity and just decreasing the time. Um, I don't, again, it always depends on people's results. So, again, if you want to, or their goals, if you want to step on stage, it might still be necessary to a certain extent, given, your genetics and your nutrition, that you still may have to spend, 2 to 3 to 4 hours in the gym. But I have been experimenting with more intense, shorter workouts, and for a lot of people, that seems to work really, really well. Less time in the gym, and more time with your family, your friends, and all the other wonderful things in life.
And so what, like, I know from right now, my workouts have gone for about 30, probably about 30 to 35 minutes. And
Hmm.
but intensity, not stopping, like the short stop, the short breaks in between, like 30 seconds. And
Totally.
I've found that I'm seeing some great results. Now, part of it is I no longer have that attention span I did before, nor do I have the time, right?
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, really wanting to be consistent with my workouts. So I just said, okay, what can I consistently do? I can consistently do 30 minutes, 5 to 6 days a week. And that seems to be working.
Awesome.
So are you saying then that the first thing is the more you decrease it, the more the intensity is required to get results? Is that the first kind of thing I'm taking away?
Again, it always depends on what somebody's trying to achieve. So if we're going to look at the number one goal on most people's list, which is to change their body composition, so and maybe we can just speak to that because the answer would be different for all sorts of other types of goals. But if we're looking strictly at a body composition change, which is usually the top of the list, 9 times out of 10 people come to me and they want to decrease the amount of body fat on their body and they want to increase their lean muscle tissue. Um, if that's the goal that you're after, then short workouts are totally effective. Long workouts are effective too. And sometimes if you're doing powerlifting where longer rest periods are required, then those longer workouts are totally effective. But they're not for everybody. So for people who have less time, who have families, who aren't serious athletes, but still want to see a change in their body composition in their body without investing that much time, then there definitely are shorter, more intense type programs that, if you don't have injuries that limit you in that intensity, can work really awesome. Where you can be in and out in 20 to 30 minutes. In fact, some of the crazy workouts I have some of my clients do are only 12 minutes. So,
Well, I'm loving 12 minutes. I will tell you.
yeah. That doesn't include warm up and your mobility afterwards, but the workout itself, yeah, 12 minutes. I call it a shit storm.
I love it. I love it because it probably feels like one and looks like one.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So so the other thing I want to just touch on is what do you do? Because, and particularly as a lot of people watching these lives tend to be in their 30s, 40s, 50s sort of thing. And one of the things for me that's gotten really important is doing different types of exercise. So, stretching,
Mm,
yoga, strength training, strength and resistance training, some cardio. And I think what oftentimes when people go towards beginning to work out, they go into one area, right?
hmm
I'm going to do this, and they don't see the results. So talk a little bit about what a nice blend should be for the average person who wants to shift their body composition and also stay healthy and mobile.
Cool. So that's a great question. Um, and for the average person who wants to do all of those things, a combination of mobility, cardiovascular, so some sort of interval type training, mixed with heavy lifting and a little dash of gymnastics in there is a really, really great place to start. There are some really cool communities, like CrossFit is one good example, who blends all of these disciplines very well. Um, CrossFit it can be very extreme and a lot of Olympic lifting and more complicated lifts. So if you kind of take out the more extreme parts of CrossFit for the average person, you can simplify it and you can simply do a blend of what I call functional whole body movements. And these are nothing new to anybody. All of human movement is made up of really just five basic movements, and everything is built upon those. One is a squat, the other is a lunge, one is a push, the other is a pull, and the last one is rotation. And with all of those movements, your body gets to move in all the different planes of motion that it can. So, a good blend that I like to do, for example, for clients when I'm putting together a workout program for them, and they don't have like a specific goal that's sports specific or stepping on stage or something like that. So just for general fitness and a body composition change, is I make sure that every workout we're either working their whole body, or we might be focusing on a particular set of the body. So we might focus on, say, lower body and core, or I might do a push and a pull movement, or we might focus completely on the posterior side of someone's body. So, like something for glutes, hamstrings, and back. So an example of a workout, just simple one, would be having somebody run on the treadmill or outside for anywhere from 100 to 400 meters. So that gets like a little bit of our cardiovascular fitness in there, but it's a short stint and most people are able to do that. It's not jogging for any longer than 3 minutes. If you're
Mhm,
unable to jog, you can simply walk on an incline for that amount of time to make it difficult if running is not your thing, or you can do a row or something different.
mhm.
Then I might get them to jump off and do 5 either regular burpees or modified burpees.
Yeah.
Then we might move into 10 push-ups, 15 squats, and then maybe 30 lunges, and then go back to the treadmill and go through that kind of a sequence 3 times. And I really try to work the mobility in there by getting clients to do as much of the range of motion as possible. And this is obviously followed by a nice dynamic warm up where we really focus on whatever joints people need to get mobile. So you start with that and then you blast through a workout like that for 3 to 4 rounds. And, it's a fairly intense, and you rest when you need, maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes between rounds, whatever you require.
Mhm,
And then you just try to go as hard as you can within that round safely and with proper form. So you modify the exercises as needed. So people are freaking out. They're like, burpees, oh my god, or push-ups, but everything like that can be modified. So burpees can be modified, push-ups can be done either in the modified position or even against a wall. I have some clients who start against the wall. So you
mhm.
just modify everything to your needs. So
And what I love about what you're saying, and this is such a great place to start, is that in like 20 minutes, I mean 12 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, most of us, as busy as we are, and here you are, mom of three. I used to be, my boys are all gone, but I remember when I was a mom of three. Most of us can squeeze in 20 to 30 minutes. And I think the other part of exercise is that consistency versus the
totally.
stop and start. So there is a way to do that. And I know for myself, I call it the quick and dirty. I love the quick and
Totally.
dirty. Get me in, let me go hard. I don't care if I'm out on the ground after, but is it over?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then I also feel like I've accomplished something, right? And I think for everyone listening, that was one of the things I really wanted people to look at is don't get caught up in I've got to be there for 2 hours. I've got to go, drive,
Totally.
right? These are things that you can do at home. These are things that any program can be written as long as you're consistent and you can do it in a little bit of time.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's really, really great about workouts like that, is if you do have injuries, or you're just getting started, or you don't have a lot of equipment at home, or you're not strong enough yet to lift heavy enough weights to get that intensity. Because, if you're deadlifting, bench pressing, squatting, really heavy weights, it's very intense. And you
Mhm,
need the rest periods between that, depending on your training strategy. But if you're looking for, again, general body composition changes, and you're just getting started, you can make a workout feel very difficult and challenge your body in a great way, by stringing a bunch of exercises together. Because if you're just doing a simple weight training program, and you're not very strong, like you're at the point where you're just starting and you're wanting to get stronger, but you might only be able to use 5 pound weights to do certain movements, you're not going to generate the intensity with that. as if you were to throw in, four of those movements together, one after another without rest, and then throw in that interval of running, either or walking very steeply on an uphill, on an incline, or rowing, or on the bike, or, some sort of cardio interval. It really ups the ante in terms of the intensity of the workout when you're just getting started. And even for people like me, this past year, I entered into the Oxygen Challenge, and my coach was Camille Bazinet Leblanc, and she's like a CrossFit champion. And I picked her on purpose because I knew she would kick my butt with exactly the kind of workouts I needed. So generally, I would usually only do weight training, and cardio I was lacking in because I was just never a fan of going on the machines or just going for a run. It's not my thing. My body's not designed for it. I don't really enjoy it.
I hear you.
So to do workouts like this, it's super fun. And it was a way to really increase my cardiovascular fitness without having to actually go and do like 20, 30, 40 minutes of cardio. I could put these small little intermittent bursts of 1 to 3 minutes into my existing workouts. And then it was easy to get everything that I needed and have a more complete training program.
And, and that is so powerful. I know for myself that is really exactly what I love. I love first of all, I love the combination because it keeps me kind of entertained.
Mm,
I love the switching up and the muscle confusion and all those things that are happening. And I also love the strategy of short rounds. Like I've got through the round. Okay, I can get
totally.
another round, and I can wrap my brain around it. I guess for me, I don't know about you, but I like endings, right? I like to know
Yeah.
that okay, I've ended this round. I'm starting another one. I've ended. Almost like I can see it. Where if are we going to finish? Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So first thing, so what I'm saying, and I'm just going to stop and see who's out there. So I see Don Jones. Hello, Don. I see Don Macon. Hello, Miss Macon. How are you? I see Cindy. I see Taria. Welcome, ladies. That's what I'm going to ask you. We have a brilliant trainer, doctor, chiropractor, nutritionist, all around guru in the house. So if you have a question, that you want answered, anything you're curious about, please type it in the comment section, and I will do my best to get it answered, because this is the purpose of a live. You guys, it's an interaction. So if there's something you're looking for and I've not asked it, jump on, type it in the comment section, and I'll ask Dr. Michelle on your behalf. So for sure. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition and what exactly when we say nutrition, what does it really mean? Because, right now there's so much out there.
Mm.
There's every, don't eat this, do eat this, just eat that, don't eat this. I'm pretty educated in nutrition and I'm confused. So I'm telling you. So for someone who wants to shift their body composition, what would you suggest? Where do they start? What do they look at?
Yeah, it's there is a mess of stuff out there. I always tell clients you have to be prepared to put on your bullshit cap and just sort of have some common sense. There is quite a large diet industry out there, and unfortunately they prey on creating shame within us about our bodies, the way they look, the way they feel, and they utilize that shame in order to steal your money and your self confidence and any hope of prolonged success. Unfortunately, the diet industry is one driven by failure. That's what feeds it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's safe to say when any of the messaging is coming out about fad type diets, it's really just it's just the same thing packaged with a new bow. So basically, you always have to go back to fundamentals, and the fundamentals never change. And the fundamentals is that humans require, three major macronutrients. We require protein, carbohydrate, and fat. And we require all of the vital minerals and nutrients. That's what our body needs. So, in order to get that, to grow and to feel good and to be able to detox our body, we need to source those things from our nutrition. So, you have to really have your whole diet based around whole foods. And where whole foods are either lacking because the density of nutrition in them just isn't quite what it was 100 years ago. What we can do nowadays, which is great, is we can fill those gaps in with some supplements where they're needed. But I really caution my clients um, to do the minimal there first and to really increase whole foods and then add in like supplements and meal replacement stuff to fill those gaps where we're not able to get all those macronutrients or the quality of nutrients that we used to be able to get in our whole foods. And that's really the place to start. A lot of the problems come from people eating a lot of food that's just it's over processed and it's not real. Um, there's too many added ingredients, too much nutrition is stripped out, and the other major offender is inorganic foods and then non-ethically sourced protein sources. So if you're not vegetarian or vegan and you're eating protein, it really should be ethically farmed and sourced. So grass-fed, organic chicken, grass-fed beef, wild game and meats, ethically sourced fish. These things are really important because if you're getting them from the other non-ethical sources, then there's all sorts of other things riddled through that meat, like steroids, antibiotics, mercury. The list goes on. So really, it's going back to basics, looking at fundamental whole food nutrition, and then filling in the gaps of that with really awesome supplements like probiotics. Protein powders are amazing for helping increase protein intake for people, amongst a host of other types of supplements. But that's really where to start.
And so when you're talking whole food, just so that we're really clear, it's food from the earth.
Yes.
in its
Yes.
in its natural form, right? It's like I
That's right.
know I joke, I go into the grocery store, I go into the fruits and vegetable aisle, I go to the fish counter, I go to the organic section, and I'm out,
Mm,
right? And I never ever go into the aisles in between because it doesn't have
right.
any whole food in there. And
That's right.
and so I really want people to understand what you're talking about. So let's talk about artificial sweeteners, low fat processed
Hmm.
stuff, because I think that's the other thing that's really kind of wreaking havoc in people's lives is like sugar free, um,
Right.
no sugar here, no fat here. Can you talk a little bit about what should people be reading or thinking of using those things?
Yeah, totally. Um, the low sugar thing, it really, again, it's one of those wolves in sheep's clothing again. So it's just the whole diet industry wrapped up with a pretty bow again. So that's where you got to put on that bullshit meter again. The trouble with artificial sweeteners, well, for one, aspartame, if it hasn't been banned already, I'm in shock because it's a neurotoxin, which is pretty much just a fancy word for it kills your brain cells. That's proven. That's not just me saying that. You can look up a bunch of articles, medical articles on that. It's a neurotoxin. So that's one thing about some artificial sweeteners. But then there's a smaller, more insidious issue with them that I don't think people recognize. They'll drink the things that are sugar free or eat them, and they're like, great, I didn't consume any sugar. But in order to make that product taste good, these artificial sweeteners are added in order to give the products sweetness so that they're still palatable. The trouble is your body doesn't know the difference between real sweet hitting its tongue and the artificial one coming in. So when that artificial sweetness hits your tongue, it still stimulates your body in the same way that sugar would. So
Mm,
you taste what your body thinks is sugar coming. It starts to prepare itself by releasing insulin in order to uptake that sugar, and that sugar never comes. So in essence, you end up getting this spike of insulin every time you consume this. The other crazy thing that ends up happening, and they've done studies on this too, is the next time people who eat a lot of those diet sugar-free foods come into contact with food that has real sugar in it, real natural sugars, they tend to really overeat and go overboard. And they looked at it, it's this psychological thing where the body's like, holy shit, this is the real thing. Get as much as you can.
But we don't know.
And I've talked to tons of people who are on these diet products, and they're like, I always wondered why that happened. I went absolutely ballistic when real sugar was put in front of me. And so that's obviously really dangerous. And plus, sugar is actually okay for you depending on where you're getting it from. If we're talking about fructose from fruit, or the sugars that are in complex carbohydrates like oatmeal, rice, and potatoes, those things, when they're broken down, those still become sugar in the body. Those are valuable to the body and really helpful, especially for recovery, for fuel to exercise, and to actually build your muscle tissue. So avoiding sugar isn't really the thing to do. It's avoiding, the added white processed sugar is the thing to minimize. But even then, you don't have to avoid it entirely. You just have to minimize it.
Yeah, and Don's going, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. And I see Philoline has joined. And Phil, I see your question. I'm going to get to it for sure because I know it's a question that many people have. So let's talk fat.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people just eat the fat when you're going to eat it, and don't when you should. Like, I mean, it's so crazy. But let's talk about fat free and what that really is.
Yeah, the history of the fat free thing, it's kind of crazy. There was a scientist named Ansel Keys, and he did this study where he looked at the rates of heart disease and the intake of dietary fat. And he tried to make a case for himself to show this nice graph that would show clearly that countries where there was a higher intake of fat, there was more heart attacks and more heart disease. Well, when he researched, I think it was over 100 countries in the original research project, it turned out that he couldn't get that clear, beautiful graph that he was after because there was no correlation between increased fat intake and heart disease. There was no correlation at all. So he did what every great scientist back then did with their massive egos, and he eliminated all the countries that didn't show what he wanted to show. And then he had this beautiful graph that showed exactly what he wanted. And that was back in the 40s and 50s when fat became evil. And it was also the introduction of trans fats and margarine and all this other garbage that, turned out to really give people heart disease. And it's funny that with the introduction of all of those things, the rates of heart disease skyrocketed in North America. And obviously now those products are highly, highly, minimized, and there's big warnings on them. So fat is not bad. Fat, again, is honestly next to protein. It's one of the most important macronutrients we need to consume. I eat like 3 eggs every morning. I think my brother has half a dozen, and we cook them in grass-fed butter, full fat butter. I eat full fat yogurt. I use olive oil. I eat nuts and seeds, peanut butter, almond butter, full fat, everything. If I wasn't on the cleanse I was on right now, I would be having cream in my coffee. But I've gone off dairy just for a few weeks just to clean out the system. But fat it's amazing for you. It makes up everything from our cellular walls to hormones. It's a very, very important macronutrient.
It's funny because almost anyone who's worked with you that I know, they've gotten the diet and they said, okay, coconut oil, peanut butter, what? And the I'm never gonna lose any weight. And then it starts rolling off. Like, I know I'm avocado girl. I have eggs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have eggs after we're done, actually. I have eggs
Yeah.
pretty well every day. I love eggs. I use coconut milk on almost everything I cook. I've been raised on coconut milk. We put it on everything.
Totally.
Olive oil. And so I'm so excited that you're talking about this. So what fats should people be aware of?
Like the healthy ones you want are obviously the most important fats to make sure you're getting are your omega 3s. So omega 3s, obviously, we've heard about getting them through fish oils. Although that source is great, you can get safer ones because it depends on where the fish are coming from. You can get safer ones through vegetarian sources through seaweed. Seaweed is an amazing source of it.
Mhm.
But believe it or not, omega 3s also come from grass-fed beef because what do cows eat? They eat grass. So massive, massive omega 3s that way. That one's really important. And then you want like there's monounsaturated, there's MCTs like coconut oil. You mentioned avocado, nuts and seeds. These types of things are really, really important. I just got to take a sip of water here.
No worries. And they are the things that make things taste good. Like really, let's just be real. Those fats, when you add them to certain things, it's just yum yum, right?
Yeah, they're totally tasty, and they give us they make us feel satisfied. So it's really, really important to have them.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I see Chantel, similar Chantel. Now let's talk. We've talked fat, we've talked artificial sugars. Now let's talk protein.
Hmm.
And let's talk high protein, no protein. What should we do in the protein area? And I know Phil Aline's question is, how do you maintain muscle as you age? So since we're in the protein section, if you could answer his question as well.
Yeah. Well, we can go over protein first, and then we can get to Phil's question. Um, Protein is the most important of the three macronutrients. Every single thing in our body is made up of amino acids. Everything, our muscles, our brains, uh, our bones, tendons, nervous tissue, like everything. Proteins are even embedded in our cellular membranes that act as transport systems to bring nutrients in and out of our cells. They make up everything. So, and they're constantly being turned over because you can imagine, I think it's every 7 years, our bodies are completely brand new. I think every 6 hours, our stomach lining is brand new
Wow.
because it's turned over that quickly. I only say 7 years because our bone tissue is the last thing to turn over. That's how long it takes on average. But our body is constantly in this breaking down and repair mode where it's replacing its amino acids. So it's really, really important that we provide our body and keep that amino acid pool up to date by consuming protein in our diet. And that can come from all sorts of different sources, both animal and plant. There are essentially 20 amino acids, and 8 of them are essential. And those are the ones that we can't make in our body. So we have to consume them through our diet. Generally, if you're not vegetarian or vegan and you're eating animal proteins, if you're having 1 to 2 servings of an animal sourced protein, whether that's egg or meat, you're generally going to be getting what you need. If you're adding a shake or some other form of getting some amino acids in or some vegetarian sources. If you're vegan or vegetarian, it gets a little bit trickier, but it's not impossible. You
Hmm.
can get those 8 essential amino acids by blending different vegetarian sources. So by putting beans and rice together, for instance, or getting seaweed or having nuts and seeds with beans and legumes, you can get those all of those amino acids, and you can increase your intake. But to get to Phil's question, and I just want to make sure I have it right, is it how do you maintain your muscle tissue as you age?
Yes, yes.
That that's the question. Okay, that's a great question. there's there's a couple. The biggest things that you have an impact on that will make a difference in that department are number one, making sure that your sleep is managed. Sleep is so important because when we're done growing as young adults, there's only really 2 times during our lives where we have growth hormone really surging in our bodies that we can have an impact on. And that is during our sleep, technically between the hours of 10 and 2, so 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Those are the really important times to be sound and be asleep. So managing your sleep, having good sleep hygiene, making sure you're getting that deep, restful 4 stage REM sleep is super important for maintaining muscle, building it, and growing it. The other thing is making sure that your program that you've designed for yourself in the gym is catered to building lean mass. So
Mm.
the type of program I described earlier, that really sort of intermittent back and forth between things, it's not that that won't work, but depending on how resilient your body is, I don't know if you have any injuries, Phil. I certainly have a couple, so I can't work out like I used to, but slowing the tempo down and really working with eccentric movements. So that's when the muscle is being stretched. So not concentric when you're squeezing the muscle, but the eccentric phase of the movements where the muscle is stretching. If you slow those movements down and increase your resistance, that adds an incredible stimulus to build muscle. So you've got sleep, you've got hypertrophy based workouts. And then the third really important thing is making sure that you're getting enough amino acids or protein in your diet consistently day after day. If you want to maintain what you have, the general rule of thumb in bodybuilder world, if you go to RDAs like recommended daily allowances or food guide or any of those things, I don't want to speak ill of them, but to maintain or put on extra muscle, they don't recommend nearly enough.
Hmm.
So what you want to do is you want to have at least 1 gram per pound of desired lean mass per day. If you want to put on muscle tissue, I would increase that to anywhere from 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per desired lean mass per day. So you have to eat a lot more protein than you think you should
And
if you want to put on muscle.
and it's also spacing it out throughout the day, right? Like pacing how
Totally.
you eat your protein. It's not like sitting down and putting it all in one shot. It's throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not guzzling a whole blender of protein powder, that's for sure. Yeah, you ideally want to spread that. You want to spread that out over. Usually, with my smaller male clients or my smaller female clients, I have them spread it out over 4 meals a day. Usually 3 meals in one shake if they're better with their food prep and their cooking. If they're not as good at cooking and food prep, then 2 shakes and 2 meals. And then for my larger, more athletic women and my larger, more athletic men, then I'll have them do it over maybe 5 or as many as 6 meals, depending again on their goals and what they're after.
So now everybody knows where I get my 2 shakes and 2 meals from, right? And it worked brilliantly, and that's just because I just don't have the time, and it just makes it easy.
Totally,
But it does the job, right? Um,
totally.
so you said you were on a cleanse, and I know
Yes,
many people cleansing. Why would I do it? Is it good for me? Cleansing scares
sure.
me. That was me when I started. Ooh, cleansing scares me. But now it's like
Yeah,
years later. Talk a little bit about why cleansing and what you should do.
totally.
And and,
Um,
and can you
I
also?
was terrified of cleansing as well. The first time I did a cleanse, I think I spent 3 days in the bathroom, like I couldn't get off the toilet. It was like that red rose cleanse or something.
I've done.
Um,
I've done.
yeah, yeah, that one. It was horrendous. And so I kind of had my mind made up about them and thought they were a bit silly. But as I began to read more and was introduced to people who had done various types of cleanses, I started to research and look into the validity of them and realize that they really, really are an important strategy, and sometimes a necessity for people to get over the hump to feel better. Sometimes their bodies are just so bunged up, for lack of a better word, whether that's digestively or with another one of your major organs. Sometimes it's really, really effective and crucial to cleanse that organ or organs, to help your body and to assist it. Now, we have all these organs that naturally cleanse our body, like our GI system, even just the act of breathing, our skin by sweating, our livers, our kidneys. All of these things act to cleanse our body. But the trouble is, we live in a much different world now, from through the course of evolution than we did 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So we're just exposed to a lot more new foreign particles or toxins. People will refer to them as, and they come at us from everywhere. Even if you're diligent in the products that you use on your body, you can't avoid the air that you breathe. Sometimes they're sneaky. They're in our foods with certain food additives, or if you're not eating organically, there's herbicides, fungicides, pesticides on your food. So all of that stuff goes into our body, and our body really does do the best it can with the organs it has to cleanse that, but it's not always effective, especially over time. The effect becomes cumulative. So I've tried various different cleanses, and they're amazing, like, depending on what's going on in your body, but I think they're an absolute essential part to your healthy lifestyle, and should be done either once quarterly or twice a year, depending on where you live, your exposure. And also, really, the greatest thing that tells you whether you need to cleanse or not is your body. Your body will tell you. Usually you'll start to have, these are just the most common symptoms, not all of them, but the most common symptoms are fatigue,
Mhm.
um, hunger. Even though you're eating the same you always have, you might have excessive hunger. That can sometimes be a sign of parasites in the gut. I know that sounds gross, but if those little guys run rampant in there, they can eat all your food, and that's why you're hungry. So they obviously need to be cleansed. You can have headaches, pain or discomfort throughout your body. You can just feel generally sluggish. Gas and bloating are other really common symptoms. Just generally not feeling very well. Weight gain can also be a sign.
Mhm. I know before I did my first cleanse, and that was many, many years ago, I could eat
Mm,
out of house and home, not gain a pound, and be hungry
yeah,
an hour later. It was a and then I was tired all the time. So,
yeah,
and after I did my first cleanse, my energy instantly went through the roof, and my appetite probably cut in half. So I totally
yeah.
get it. Now, Phil's asking another question, but I just want to go back to, is there any benefit? Like, I know for myself, when I started cleansing, I saw an increase in my lean muscle mass.
Mhm.
And so, is that a figment of my imagination, or is that a benefit?
No, it's totally a benefit, because you can imagine, if we look at a couple scenarios, if your liver is a bit sluggish and the kidneys, and they're not able to rid the body of toxins, you have these extra, you know, inflammatory markers floating around in your body, and your body's trying its best to deal with it, and has increased inflammation. And that just, it's taxing on the body, and it utilizes other resources that it would normally be utilizing to build your stores of protein and to build your stores of carbohydrate, and those resources get shuttled to trying to put out the fire, if you will. And
Mhm.
then if you're also eating like GMOs, GMOs are genetically modified organisms. So like our fruits and vegetables, if they're not organic, and you're eating inorganic and GMO and steroids and all these other things, there's thousands of studies to show that they contribute to leaky gut and to parasites. And we all have bacteria and parasites and things within our body. They're always there. They're fine when they're kept in check. But when our body is stressed and inflamed due to certain lifestyle factors and external stresses and perceptions, it makes it really hard for the body to um, digest and absorb and utilize all of the food that you're eating properly. You can imagine, if you have all these parasites having a dance party in your gut, eating all of your food, it's not really getting through the gastrointestinal wall to get to you. If you add leaky gut in there because you've been eating GMOs or steroids from inorganic meat or things like that, those are tearing small micro tears in your GI tract, and those food particles that are normally supposed to be broken down
Right.
into amino acids or individual carbohydrates that our body can recognize are now entering into the bloodstream in these full-blown big particles that our body doesn't know what to do with, doesn't recognize, and it sets up a fight response against it, creating more inflammation, and on the cycle goes. So when you cleanse, absolutely, you're putting in the nutrients into your body to help your body not only starve parasites and things like that, but to help give the nutrients to cleanse all of the toxicity out of those cells, to allow them to function better, and then take the pressure that then decreases the inflammation in the body, and the body then can start shuttling some of that extra nutrition that you're absorbing and eating now into building some more lean tissue and some bone, and get back to rebuilding your body rather than just sort of putting out the fire over and over again.
Wow. And it's interesting because the body is the perfect machine when we do those things, right? And just
Mm.
get it going. Phil's asking about cleansing and medication. So he's asking what cleanse. I'm gonna kind of ask you, can people on medication do a cleanse?
Yeah, I've had many clients on medications who have been on cleansing and gone through cleanses. You just have to you basically you can ask your doctor to monitor you through that. But I've haven't heard of any medications other than I believe, and I can't necessarily speak to this because I'm not a medical doctor. So all of this needs to be checked with your medical doctor. But the only contraindication I've ever heard for doing actual cleanses is if you're using medications for epilepsy. But everything else from that, it's usually just timing the cleansing and the intake of your food around your medications as prescribed. So I've had clients on thyroid medications. They just simply take the supplements or parts of the cleansing and program that we're on 20 minutes before or after they take their medications and so on. But usually there aren't any contraindications because you have to remember when you're cleansing, usually most of the cleanses, the ones that I would recommend anyways, are all just food. Like it's really just food. It's just protein,
Mhm.
carb, and fat. And then it's all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and then some botanicals that are sourced from the earth. So
Yeah.
there really isn't any contraindications to eating food, which is all a cleanse really is.
Yeah, and I think that that's that what a big kind of myth, right? Is that a good cleanse is really just all the nutrients that the body actually needs in a
Totally.
highly bioavailable form, to
Hmm.
not have you have to digest it, but to have you just have access to those nutrients when you're doing it properly. So,
That's right.
oh my gosh, you know what? We are coming to the top of the hour. I could ask you question after question after question after question because, nutrition and I mean, this is just such a well, first of all, it's one of my favorite topics. And
Totally.
it's so broad and vast. So let's do this. If someone and I see the questions, so someone wants to get a hold of Dr. Michelle, how can they do that? How can they get in touch with
Yeah. Yeah. The easiest way is to DM me on Instagram. So my Instagram is just my name, Michelle Crisp. Crisp is CRISPE. So just follow me on Instagram, request me, and I'll add you, and just DM me there. That's the easiest way. You can also private message me on Facebook as well. But the only Facebook account I have at the moment, that's going to change shortly, but the only one I have at the moment is just my private one with friends and family. But you can still private message me there, and I'm happy to answer because I'll see that we have friends in common. I'm sure through Suzanne and other people. So you can ask me on Facebook, but Instagram, I'm usually on more regularly, and I'll answer there a lot faster.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you know what? If you have a question and you want to connect with me, I can also forward them to Dr. Michelle just to make sure we get them answered. Dr. Michelle, can
Awesome.
can we get you back again with no
Of
technical
course.
with no technical
Of
difficulty,
course.
right? Because
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
I'm sure there was people just excited about just hearing from you. I know whenever I've done a presentation with you, it's been lots of fun, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, there's just so much information." Any last tips that you want to leave everyone with as we're wrapping?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that is coming up in my world now, as I'm sort of reading and always being a bit of a nerd about this stuff, is the emerging science of epigenetics. So what I've found is really, really important, because I spent a lot of time in my younger years really focusing on the small ins and outs of working out and nutrition, and I was missing a really a really big thing that shapes our health and our body. And that really is our perceptions of life and our stresses. And what I mean by that is have fun, like have fun with your program. Don't take it too seriously. Don't beat yourself up. Don't go into the gym with the aim of like wanting to beat on your body. Go into the gym with the aim of wanting to build it and wanting to make something better. Don't go in and from a shame point of view and abuse it. Think of it as a beautiful transformation and enjoy it, because that small shift in perspective is everything. It makes it so much more enjoyable. I used to go into the gym with my headphones on, and I was like, don't, like, nobody talk to me. I was a total bitch with my headphones on, head down, didn't talk to anyone, just powered through it. And it was a very ego driven type way to work out, and nutrition was like that too. Everything was so tight, and it was stressful and not fun. And now at the age of 40, I'm chatting with people, and I'm taking breaks and connecting in the gym, and it's so much more fun that way. And with my food, I'm enjoying it, everything, even things that quote unquote aren't necessarily supposed to be on the plan. If I decide one day with my girlfriend and our kids that we're going to have a pizza, like, I smash that pizza and I enjoy it. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
As opposed to beating the crap out of myself about it before, and then heading to the gym to beat the shit out of myself to work it off. Like, it's just not a way to live, and it's not a way to do this. You can do this having fun, um, enjoying life, enjoying your program, and enjoying food. I mean, we're human beings on this planet with this beautiful body for this human existence. We should enjoy all the senses that we are given as a gift of being that.
I'd love to have you back to have this conversation because I'm all about mindset, and I'm just having people register for the Fit Fab and Fulfilled retreat, and we're in Panama, and to hang out on an island, and the whole thing is about this exact conversation. So this is my third year,
Cool.
and it's about self-love, self-respect, and self-care, and it is really about having a loving and healthy relationship with this thing called health, fitness, and wellness, right?
Totally.
And it's so key, and getting away from the all or nothing, getting away from the right or wrong, getting away from
Yeah.
the punishment and all those different things that we carry around our food and nutrition. So I would love to just dive into that conversation with you and get your
Awesome.
expert perspective and just talk really mindset, because I think success and failure when it comes to your nutrition really is your nutrition, your health, your fitness, all is determined by the mindset to which you go into it.
100%.
So
That is the thing that is most important.
yeah, absolutely. The comments, please, 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 please come back. With that,
I would love to.
that brilliant, brilliant lady. Good job. We're doing a good job. Thank you very much for the conversation and this topic. Many thanks. So yeah, we definitely got to have you back.
No problem.
All
Be
right.
happy to.
Well, we've been talking to Dr. Michelle Crisp, personal trainer, competitive bodybuilder, chiropractor, nutritionist, mom,
Mhm.
fab friend, just an amazing all around woman. One of my favorite people. I just love her spirit, her energy, and just who you are in the world. Thank you so much for coming out and chatting. And I'm gonna book you again, like soon.
Amazing. It's been
All
my absolute pleasure.
right, everyone, and please, the replay will be available very shortly. Please share it with anyone who you think having this conversation will be a blessing, because sometimes you may be having the same conversation with someone and third party edification at otherwise hearing it from someone else would be the way you bless. And this is brilliant information. We don't always get this clarity and this value when it comes to health, fitness, wellness, nutrition, all those different pieces. So please share. I will be back here next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, thank you for your patience as we worked out the kinks. Dr. Michelle, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you back next week, 7:30, 7
Cool.
o'clock Eastern.
See ya.
See ya.